Bond coming. Right now, Curtis Axel is the latest person to be let go by WWE, but who knows how long that statement will be true. Anyways,
This is
I
an
saw
old
your guys'
video.
requests, so let's look back at the Axeman's first and last matches. So before he became a WWE star, Curtis Axel was a kid named Joseph Hennig. Despite his father, Mr. Perfect, being a wrestling legend, the WWE Hall of Famer didn't want his son to become involved in the industry. Curtis Axel followed his father's wishes and attended college and majored in business computer systems and management.
He
However,
was a business major?
the son of Mr. Perfect still had a desire for wrestling, so before his father's death, Axel and his dad discussed it. After that, Curtis Axel laced up his boots and began training.
Okay.
He made his debut in July of 2007, and it wouldn't be long before WWE took notice, signing Curtis Axel less than a year after he had his first official match.
Oh, wow.
He was sent to development, and while there, he'd be given the name Michael McGillicutty. Axel spent roughly the next 2 years training, and in 2010, he finally got to make his
He went against Sheamus.
first appearance in front of the WWE fans. The Axeman appeared on NXT Season 2 as
That's
a rookie
true.
and was partnered with Kofi Kingston. Still going by the McGillicutty name, Curtis made his first appearance on the June 8th, 2010 episode of NXT, but would have his first match the following week. Let's check it out.
Anyway, let's set the table on this one because we're really not talking about his career. We're talking about, unfortunately, an incident that happened to him. Curtis Axel, also known as Joseph Hennig, was arrested on May 17th, 2026 in Isoka County, Minnesota. He is currently 46 years old. His father was Curt Hennig, Mr. Perfect himself. His grandfather was Larry Axe Hennig, another legend. And the name carries weight in this business when it comes to the Hennigs. And right now, that name is attached to a headline that does not feel right. So welcome to the T-Drop Strong Brew. No soft behavior. And here's what the records show right now. We are gonna try our best to go through verified facts only and according to court documents. So based on that, at approximately 8:47 p.m. on May 17, officers from St. Francis Police Department responded to a property damage crash in McDonald Street on St. Francis Boulevard, northwest from here, in that area. A vehicle apparently had backed into another car in a drive-thru in McDonald's. That's in the drive-thru, guys. He went through the drive-thru, which based on this video, right? The drive-thru goes this way. So you come in through here. Sorry, let me go to the screen instead and share. So he somehow came into here, went through this, and got into an accident with another car. Or he went through a fence and then backed, I don't know. So a vehicle had backed into another car in the drive-thru, and that vehicle belonged to Hennig. Now, when police arrived, he was reportedly navigating the parking lot slowly, and the criminal complaint notes a strong odor of alcohol. He had bloodshot eyes and watery eyes, and he also had a slurred speech. He was instructed to step out of the vehicle, and he refused. Who the hell refuses a cop's wishes? I thought people would know better. I don't know, especially if you know you're intoxicated, or at least I hope he thought he knew he was intoxicated, he would have stepped in. Yeah, Gunther is a real friend. He refused. Officers then had to open the door. They turned off the engine on him, and they had to physically remove him from his vehicle and placed him in handcuffs. Now, in the squad car, he was read Minnesota's breath test advisory, which is something to make sure that he was chemically intoxicated, but he refused to do it too. So then they just had to do a search of the vehicle, and apparently they found an open 700 millimeter bottle of vodka, Phillips vodka to be exact, in front of the passenger side floorboard. So somewhere on the floor on the passenger side, they found a bottle of vodka. He was arrested, but then he was later released from jail on May 19th. This at this point is a gross misdemeanor charge which is gonna probably carry an approximate 364 days according to my chart here. These are all the complaints on Mr. Hennig, and right now he is looking at 364 days. Now, before we go any further, let's talk about who this man is in context, because when it came to these reports, the headline does not tell the whole story of the guy's career, because this man, he worked with Paul Heyman. He was under Paul Heyman's wing. He took Axel in around 2013, 2012, around there, and this audience was watching a generational name get a legitimate push, because usually for the most of the time when he gets pushed by Paul Heyman, you get a decent out there. But Paul Heyman has failed a few people in the past, and we can talk about that in a future video. But he also became a Intercontinental Champion, and that title lineage runs directly through his father, Mr. Perfect himself. So two men of that lineage had the same championship, but in different eras. Now, he was part of the B team run, but with Bo Dallas, which was not everyone's cup of tea when it came to that. But those two did commit to that gimmick fully. They earned their reaction on character alone, but eventually Curtis Axel was released by WWE in 2020 during the COVID budget cuts. He returned briefly, I think around 2021, 2022, but not as a wrestler at this point. He was a producer. And his last recorded in-ring appearance was for Midwest All-Star Wrestling in Minnesota around May 2025. A man still trying to stay connected to the business he grew up inside. He's doing indie matches or stuff like that, or he's involved in indie companies. But when it comes to this whole situation, honestly, respectfully, he carries a name that has meant something in professional wrestling for 3 generations. We had Larry, the Axe Hennig, we have Curt, Mr. Perfect Hennig, and we have Joseph Hennig, who is Curtis Axel. This is all lineage. And this headline, this moment, is not the story that lineage deserves at this time. Now, I'm not here to pile on him. I'm not here to speculate, but and I'm not even here to edit beyond what the records show. But what I will say is this: when someone with that kind of background ends up at that point in his life in a McDonald's parking lot at somewhere around 8 o'clock p.m., intoxicated and probably down in his luck, that sounds like a person who may need support. It's not a hot take. His former tag team partner, even Ryback, remember Ryback? They were part of Rybaxel. Ryback has already issued a public statement on this situation. It was probably very well thought, the most I've thought for Ryback, and it was a little human. And I can read it for you guys if you want. My run with Curtis Axel, Joe Hennig as Rybaxel was one of the most interesting periods in my WWE career. We were used constantly, booked on every house show, wrestled for the WWE Tag Team Championships on multiple occasions, main evented part of a European tour against The Shield alongside Randy Orton, and even got a 2-pack action figure together, which I'm actually proud of. While it wasn't a time when I was featured as heavily as I had been before or would be afterwards, it was one of the most enjoyable runs in my career. Working with Joe was easy. The chemistry was real, and I genuinely believe our backstage vignettes were some of the best promo work either of us did. Unfortunately, much of that material never reached the audience the way it would today. This was before WWE heavily utilized social media, and a lot of our content lived on WWE.com rather than television. To this day, I believe Rybaxel breakup is one of the greatest tag team breakups most fans never saw. Joe Hennig is a great man and a great father to his 3 boys. None of us are perfect, and we all make mistakes in life. I'm not condoning poor decisions, but I thank God nobody was injured or killed, which is also true, which is great. My hope is that this becomes a setback that ultimately propels Joe forward to continue learning, growing, and becoming an even better version of himself. He has a lot to offer, not only the wrestling business, but the world. Wishing you the best, Joe. And that's the last bite. Feed me more.
Really much.
I lost that unmanly freak with his rope.
There you go. There are those 2. Now, the wrestling community is watching this one carefully. The larger question this community needs to address, though, is obviously WWE has said nothing, 0. But honestly, what you would expect, they're not even he's not part of the company. So when they're not part of the company, not even a Legends deal or whatever deal, they're not gonna respond to this. In fact, they'll back up even more from this. They're not gonna care about wellness. They're not gonna care about anything of that because he's not involved. So obviously, if anyone is thinking, well, why doesn't WWE say anything? Well, why would they? They let him go. They don't need him anymore. So that's my answer to that. But another question is not only about Curtis Axel. The question is bigger than that. Obviously, WWE has other situation where active wrestlers been in a similar situation, and we don't know what they do or they do anything because some haven't really gotten punished as far as we know. But would they don't even respond to those. So honestly, they never deal with these situations publicly. They're never gonna, between this and previous wellness issues and the whole thing with Ludwig, WWE never tends to make their situations with legal matters public because that's not what they want people to focus on, which makes sense. They want them to focus on the entertainment factor. But anyway, the record is what it is at this point when it comes to this situation. May 17 in that county, he hits this whole thing, but he was released 2 days later. We can't speculate anything more beyond what is documented. But I'll say this, we hope the right support finds Joseph Hennig because these situations on wrestlers or even ex-wrestlers can take a toll on them, especially when cameras are there capturing it. And sometimes even a legacy you carry can't help that situation. If anything, it makes the spotlight that heavier. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, if the T hit right, hit the like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.